Since emancipation in 1834, Black Bermudians gathered together every year to celebrate and commemorate the abolition of slavery. Friendly societies around the island organized picnics and games which began to take on an almost carnival-like atmosphere. Celebrations like these, coupled with the popularity of a very British game introduced to Bermuda by British soldiers stationed on island in the 1840s, led to the formation of cup match. On August 8, 1872, the members of rival lodges in Somerset and St. George's decided to hold a joint emancipation celebration picnic and play a friendly game of cricket. Without access to proper cricket gear, they carved bats out of oleander trees and used a stone wrapped in a cloth for their ball. The game was a roaring success, and over the next 30 years, the matches grew in both popularity and competitiveness.
Like cup match, I mean, it was definitely a different time when it came to cup match. Cup match was one time where you knew that everyone on the island can come here no matter what. And I always said cup match is probably the closest things to almost like an Independence Day, like a state of nationhood. Like we're coming together, that's something that is uniquely Bermudian, a 2-day holiday that celebrates the emancipation of slaves. And then back in the better days, it was a picnic and they just happened to play a game, you know, at that picnic because they came together to celebrate emancipation. And then they played a game of cricket. Now we play a game of cricket and then the picnic comes.
I think the beginnings of cup match is really exciting because it shows that the lodges who started cup match, it was all about self-awareness, self-support, doing for ourselves, empowering our people, and networking to make sure that we took care of each other. It was a dependence on our community rather than looking for an outside dependence. And you know, to hear when you talk to some of the seniors who were a part of it, to hear their the strength in standing firm and say, you know what, if you're not gonna give us what we asked for, we're just gonna take it. Like our forefathers had so much strength in saying, this is so important to us that we're gonna take it. So when you talk to seniors who were a part of that, the excitement and the courage that it took for them to make a stand.
How that game has evolved is we stayed between, if you notice, it stayed between the two clubs. There were occasionally, to us, it didn't seem like the whites got involved in the match itself, because the earliest one was what, 1927 or 29? St. George's put a white guy in cup match. That was practically almost by mistake if you look at it, but that's another story. But it didn't involve the whites along that time, at that time, because we still had the segregation. And the two black clubs evolved. They were able to get, the guys were, both clubs were able to mortgage their houses and everything else, to buy property and everything else, so that, hey, our forefathers saw something anyhow. So they had the vision, and we just expanded on it.
There's times, cup match was very important to Bermuda. It was because us as a people have, sometimes have been held back in certain ways. Cup match is one way where we expressed ourselves, our truly unique Bermudianism.
Cup match, as we know, has a big history, and it's important that we teach I don't think we teach our youngsters enough about the reason behind how cup match started and all of that type of stuff. I think if people understood it more, then we'll have a better understanding and people will make better decisions moving forward, you know.
Cup match became a formal event after a meeting in Market Square in St. George's, when members of the rival societies decided to buy a cup that could be played for annually. They purchased the sterling silver cup from Goldsmith and Co. in England for 20 guineas, with members of both societies contributing 6 pennies each. Though they had offers from wealthy individuals to pay for the whole cup, by getting each member to contribute to the cost, they ensured the cup was something they could call their own. A symbol of the ability of Black Bermudians to rise above adversity and excel. Today, the teams play for a replica of this cup, with the original version kept under lock and key at the Bank of Butterfield in St. George's.
Yes, I think we won the cup for a couple of years. We had it in 79, won it again in 80, 81, 82. And then St. George's came up and won it back in 83. It was a rainy week. It was so bad we had to put a tent over the wicket to keep it dry. But the cup match went on. St. George's won the cup by 20-5, and 10-5 the heavens opened up. But they left her a party and they carried on. Next I heard that they had dropped the cup overboard or damaged the cup getting it off the boat. And I took it to the jeweler's to get it fixed. And a guy came by and called me, said it was finished. I went down to pick up the cup. And he was looking at it and he says, man, this is unbelievable. The craftsmanship on this cup it's unique. I don't think there's anybody around today that could do something like this. And I asked him, I said, what would it cost to build a cup like this? I said, he said, well, if we had somebody who could build it, you're looking at $6,000 to $8,000. When we consider we paid 21 guineas for it back in 1902, the value had gone up considerably. And this is 83, so you can imagine what it'd be worth today. But the silver design on the outside of the cup is unreal.
And the cup has such a legacy because, they were offered money. The lodges were offered money. And they was like, no, we want to do this ourselves. And if you look at the craftsmanship of the cup, it's 2 parts. And when you put it together, they were just ingenious when they made that cup, where sometimes people think it's broken. But they created that cup in a way that you put it together and it is, it stands firm.
The friendly societies decided it would be best if the event was organized by sports clubs, which led to the formation of the Somerset Cricket Club with the St. George's Cricket Club, having already formed in 1892. Whilst the societies had other community duties to perform, the sports clubs would be able to spend more time focusing on making cup match into the event we see today. With this settled, the first official cup match game was played on June 12, 1902 at the Royal Naval Field in Somerset, the beginning of a tradition that has come to characterize summer in Bermuda.
Community clubs were built on families. If you go through all the clubs throughout the island, they all have a family component. You have generations of young men, and now we're starting to see generations of young women being involved in these clubs. So family is a big part of it. Just from my family alone, my father-in-law was a former captain of the club, obviously married his daughter, who was served on the committee as well. My son plays for St. George's football and cricket. A lot of other family members involved in this club. And it is important because we started off as a family and we must continue in that vein to ensure that the family component remains in these clubs.
Well, back in the day, the club was the savior for most youth. When we played cricket and football on Saturdays and Sundays, our refuge was right inside here, playing cards, playing pool, playing billiards. We were here. This was our family, the club, all of our friends. When we played cricket, we closed the club down at 12 o'clock almost every Sunday and Saturday, because there was no other place to go. We could go to movies, and then even in the movie theaters back in the day, we couldn't sit upstairs, we had to sit downstairs, we couldn't go in the hotels, so things were kind of difficult for us. But the club itself that made the families. Come out here with the youth. People used to bring their children out here. We were like babysitters, basically, with the youth teams. Even today, I think it's the same thing. Parents just dropping their children off on a Saturday and picking them up later on the day, you know. So the club was the savior for most families in Bermuda.
Right now, Bermuda, how are you feeling? They're happy Emancipation Day.
For an event played almost every year for over 100 years, much has changed about Cup Match, and much has stayed the same. The first match was actually made up 3 one-day games, with the winning team granted both the cup and the right to hold the match on their home field. This tradition changed in 1941, when Somerset's unbroken winning streak meant East Enders began tiring of having to travel to the West every year. Eventually, it was agreed Cup Match could not be played at the same venue more than 2 years in a row. Today, the venue changes yearly.
I was the one that, when I was president, we changed the 1 year bout because it was profitable for us to do that. When it was 2 years about, the teams played for a draw every year, so the club that did not have the cup, they suffered for 3 years financially. So we decided to make it a year about, and every year when the cup was in St. George's, we would give Somerset X amount of dollars, and it was vice versa. You know, and that helped the clubs financially because, like I said, without Cup Match, today they tell me it's $1 million plus. Back when I was president, it was a few $100,000. You're here on 5 acres of property that belongs to us.
In order to become one of the celebrated 11, the first step is to join either the St. George's Cricket Club or the Somerset Cricket Club. In the early days, this was limited to players who actually lived in St. George's and Somerset, but as years passed, the clubs realized they would have to broaden their pool in order to capture the best players. The next step is to get out there and play, and hope that your skill is recognized by the team captains. The team captains will put together a list of their potential 11, which are presented to the management committees of each club. Eventually, the final list is confirmed by the committee of selection.
So 2019 was my last summer in Bermuda. This is my first summer back. And I got 4 wickets in the Cup Match trial, and Somerset gave me a reserve spot. And it was really fun. It was I stayed up all night waiting for the team to come out, and then all of a sudden I got all these messages congratulating me for getting the reserve spot. So it was so nice.
Yeah, so the trials is basically it's a showcase for the guys that are playing for Somerset and would like to, prospective players for Somerset Cricket Club in the year's Cup Match. So today you will see a match between the presidents and vice presidents picks. And majority of the time, the vice president's team consists of a lot of the players that are trying to make Cup Match, and the president's team is current players. So today, it'll be a match between the two sides, and hopefully, you know, the best team gets picked.
For me, playing for Somerset means everything. You know, it's where I grew up, it's where I'm living my whole life. It means a lot to represent my community, you know, not just in league cricket, but on those 2 days as well, which everything that it means. So I'm just proud to be able to represent the best I am, the best I can.
Well, you know, the trials is all about making the first team for the Cup Match Classic, and I guess you could say a lot of nerves are going through a lot of players at this moment. You know, it's 22 players, it's 11 spots. You know, it's going to be a good fight for top 11. Hopefully they pick the right team, you know. Teamwork means that we guys always got to be together, even when the day is looking like it's not going to be us to win. You guys got to stay together. The more we are together, the happier we shall be.
It kind of takes more than ability. In my opinion, you have to actually have a team, build a team, a competitive team to play against Somerset. it's not easy to win a cup, but you still have to put the pieces to the puzzle. You know, so to bring it all in together, you need all the right pieces to come together. You know, for me, what I see for the younger players is that if they're working hard and they don't get it, don't stop working hard. Continue to keep working hard because it will pay off in the end. You know, people think because they work hard one season, supposed to get something. You have to keep working time and time and keep improving yourself. So that's basically any message that I want to send to a younger player. To keep working hard. You know, never stop, never get complacent, and just keep fighting for what you want. You know.
People think cup match makes a lot of money. We make money, yeah. Not to the extent that we should. And whatever we make is plowed back into the facility as such. And we volunteered our time over those years for the betterment of the community in which we live itself. And in our cases, as far as cup matches is concerned, as far as the both clubs who are just the organizers, Bermuda benefits by just having this cup match during those 2 days. To me, there are only two major holidays in Bermuda, 2 C's, Christmas and cup match.
When I was younger, we wasn't allowed to come around cricket clubs. We went to games, but not to come into the club. It was a certain age that you had to be in a club. But the parents just didn't want us to come to associate with the cricket club, you know, to come in. But as you get older, you pick, you know, you make a choice. And I used to follow the younger boys playing the cricket. And then I felt that I should join, being in Somerset. I lived around to Mangra Bay, so it wasn't far to come when they had something up here. And then as I got older, I joined the club itself, which was the latest auxiliary. And that carried me through for many years. And as you get 80, the age 80, you become an honorary member. And that's where I am. I'm 89 years old, but I really love the club. Although now, late years, I haven't been around because there's too many young folks, and sometimes you can't work with young folks. They don't want to listen to the older ones, so whenever they have anything, I will support them.
Have fun doing what you're doing. That's what I think, that's what we guys got out. We had fun. I mean, I can tell you many nights I'm left this club hot. I mean, there ain't no fun over there. And then him and I get together, we both like the same type of scotch. But I mean, those nights we guys used to leave it hot because we had fun working here. Jay did his electrical or somewhere, or the girls would come out, we said they came out fine. The girls used to come out Sundays for football games, they had their own uniform. Club tie, club scarf and anything else, they built that. And they would fight amongst themselves who's going on duty this week, or who's things like that. And these things, but they had fun doing it. I think if you get anything you get into, have a little fun in your work. As far as I'm concerned, if you have fun in your work and you like it, hey, you can be surprised what you can accomplish.
In the lead-up to Cup match, stores around Bermuda would decorate their storefronts and put on promotions, eager to get a piece of the event's profits. The linen suits and Panama hats that characterized early Cup match fashion has given way to bold, unique outfits with significantly more skin on show than would have been acceptable in the early 1900s. One thing that's never changed is the determination to stand out in a crowd of thousands. Getting to see the outfits on show has become as much a part of the experience as actually watching the game.
And everybody come along singing, and back there, the decorations. The women had their fancy dresses, the guys had their hats all decorated with the colors, the canes were decorated with colors. They really looked the part, you know. I'll never forget my neighbor, Alfred Simmons. He had a jacket. It was red and blue jacket, striped. That was his jacket he wore for cup match, you know. And back then, folks really went all out to dress. Now they seem like the less they were, the better.
People used to dress up to go to cup matches. Not like it is now. People used to dress up. People had on ties. People had on, you know, the ill-timed skirts with the crinolines underneath where you used to, and they have on the gloves and hats, and yeah, people used to dress up to go cup match.
On game day, the teams would travel to the venue by ferry and be greeted by fans eager to pour their hopes and dreams into their team.
Well, back in the day, it was the Corona and the Chauncey and the Fuel. They were the two boats. The Corona was the first one, and the Chauncey was the last one. Going up in the boat from over here once or twice, but from Don Penno's Wharf, that's where the boat used to leave, and all the cricketers used to be on the boat. You know, even the cricketers that stayed up in the country, they used to come down and go up on the boat and come back. You know, it was just a family affair also. So many, all of the families were there to greet them when they came in, greet them when they left. You know, it was tons of people down there, hundreds of people.
Boat was fun. Boat was fun. You go down on the boat, yes. Coming back was better than going down. Coming back was better than going down. Upstairs was mostly the, you know, elderly people that didn't want all the music and stuff. Yeah. Downstairs was me. I like music, yes. Downstairs was me. But yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Everybody got together. We had a spot. We set off together and spent 2 days. In St. George's, we all marched around to the Watford Bridge to catch the boat. Everybody had the lawn chairs, the picnic baskets and umbrellas heading down to St. George's. It was a lovely trip going down. When we got off Bayless Bay, all the St. George's folks in the boats would come out and meet and greet us and take us in. And it was a really nice feeling.
Going on the boat, we left Watford Bridge at a certain time. We had to be in St. George's for the game to start at 10. I can't remember exact time we left Watford Bridge. And it was up and downstairs, and everybody wanted to go upstairs. Everybody wanted to lean on one side of the boat. A couple of times the workman had to say, even up, where you had to go on the other side, because the boat, you know, would lean. And then they said, oh, tell him drive properly that the boat will go, but it was all the weight on one side. But I enjoy going on the boat and look forward to it. I didn't forget the Wilhelmina at that time, and I forget the other boat, because one boat caught fire around to Watford Bridge years ago. And everybody had to get your ticket beforehand and get around there in time to catch the boat. Well, I guess there was more downstairs, because, you know, downstairs you had your strong water and everything. I'll say strong water. And, you know, people upstairs, some used to sing. We used to sing some little songs and whatever, because you get up so early and you don't want to sit on the water, because you know the water draws people, sometimes make you sleepy. So we were singing different songs. But downstairs they had like a party going on, you know, just happy to be on board and going to the game.
I've had a lot of memorable moments from cricket on a whole, but cup match, it would be my first my first 50 cup match. That was my second cup match year, and I played my first cup match in '92. I made my first 50 in '93, but the greatest highlight would have been the 1996 win. And Clark Trout overthrew the ball here in Somerset. I mean, the lights were on in the club, it was dark out, and that was a monumental moment for me in cricket. And I would say after that would be the 2012 win, when I came back for my first year, we won the cup back, and we've held it on to ever since. And the latest one I would have to say was my son making Somerset's cup match team. That's one of my biggest highlights and one of my greatest achievements as a coach.
I think the most special thing was when my brother made a cup match. That was in 1976. I think it was the same year Porfit got 9 wickets and he took the 10th wicket. He stumped out the 10th batsman. So he got the whole 10 wickets. But I think that was a memorial cup match. Again, another one when my friend Clarence made cup match. He made cup match in '65. He should have been in '64 because in '64 he took 10 wickets twice. And we lost both matches, believe it or not. I suppose all the cup matches made me feel great, But that was basically the special one when my brother made a cup match in '76. I can say that.
That was my first cup match. In fact, I didn't even I went down there to learn. The Somerset score, he got under the weather. So I had to take over. On the job training, yes, it was. And that was on the job training. Also, when it started getting excited and we knew we were going to win, and I was scoring my first cup match, yes. It was. The excitement of, you're sitting here biting your nails, you don't want to watch because you're like, are we going to win, are we not going to win? You think that St. George's, you're like, oh, St. George's got the upper hand. And then it's the victory and everyone is running on the field. People are screaming.
My first cup match that I really enjoyed was 1954, right up here in the Somerset Cricket Club. And that is when we beat St. George's this year. I stand to be corrected, but I think we beat St. George's that year. And I remember sitting on that corner down there. We didn't have all these stands and all there then. We even had a practice pitch down there, a concrete practice pitch that we hadn't taken up. And Somerset won, and I remember Woodgate Simmons. And we won that match. And that was my match. I was only 9 years old at the time. That was been my ultimate, I need to get involved in this thing. That's why I think I went from there after we went. Then another one after that was 1979. I mean, I was president. And when we took that cup from St. George's office, 20 years, all hell broke loose in Somerset, as far as I'm concerned. We had haircut, we had guys getting shaved their beards off and everything else. I don't know how many babies were born that year, but I think the population increased, I'm pretty certain, from Somerset anyhow. It was a great day.
I enjoyed cup match. I think the first year I saw cup match was I sat on those bleachers right here with my dad for 2 days. First time we had ever spent any length of time together. My mom was in hospital having my younger sister. She was born on the second day of cup match. So that was a treat to me to be sitting off my dad for 2 days because he was always a workaholic. He was always helping somebody putting the roof on for somebody's house. Or I saw him very seldom. He was going before I woke up, and I would sleep before he came home. So that was a real treat, and I was hooked on cup match. That year, I remember Big Buckju Swan and Cheesy Hughes hitting sixes down the garden and up over Santa Villa. But I was fascinated.
My very first cup match as a young boy was in the late 70s, prior to 1979. In St. George's, and my memories of cup match really is with my father. I don't know if you guys know, my father used to bang the drum at cup match many years. And I remember as a little boy, when Albert St. George's got a wicket or someone scored 50 or 100, my brother and I were right behind him. And so were the rest of the St. George's fans, but we were just little boys, So my early memories is with my daddy and him beating the drum in celebration of anything St. George's had done at that particular time. So that's my most fondest and early memories.
I remember my brother's first cup match when he was coming to play. He was 16 years old as well, and which meant I was probably about 6 or 7, you know. And as a younger brother, I'm getting emotional here. I wanted to carry his bag to cup match, you know. I was carrying this big cricket bag. I'm lugging his bag down because I was a proud brother, you know. Cup match meant everything for us back in the day. It meant everything to put on that blue and blue jersey for cup match. I mean, you were playing in whites, but everybody knew that, you know, St. George's was all blue and blue, and to live this close to the field, I can't even describe the emotions, the adrenaline that was flowing. You know, I can see my brother mornings. I can promise you every single cup match, he would have me down at St. George's Community Center about 6 o'clock in the morning, and we would hit maybe 1,000 tennis balls over and over and over. And that was his preparation. And when we finished that, he'll go to the Tobacco Bay and go for a nice swim just to make sure that he was mentally and physically and everything was totally ready for games, you know. This is our preparation. This is what he basically instilled in me as a youngster, you know. So to actually see it and live it is unbelievable, just unbelievable, yeah.
For the players themselves, participation in cup match is often a familial rite of passage. Many of Bermuda's greatest players are legacies, with cricket in their blood. One of Somerset's first captains, Thomas Durrant, played in all 3 of the 1902 games and lived to see both of his sons play in the annual game. Another former Somerset captain, Arthur Simons, regarded as one of Bermuda's best bowlers, also came from past players, his father and uncle both having played in the early games.
When I see most of my family, they're still involved in the club, as a matter of fact. My brother's son-in-law is president of the club, Mr. Painter. You know, I think, as a matter of, even my brother, he became vice president of the club. That's as far as he went, you know. I've always been proud of St. George's. I give them, at times, I would say, the team is just ridiculous, you know, and my brother would jump on me, you know, because I made a prediction many years ago that when these young players played cup match, that St. George's would not win the cup in 10 years, and it has come to a fact. You know, we just don't have the caliber of players that Somerset has. And I hate to say that, but it's a fact. But in time, I think we will. I mean, we had the cup for 20 years, you know, and that made me proud. I saw so many victories that didn't even bother me, you know. Today, we've lost 10, so we'll go on. When I was president, I never lost a cup match. So I have that to thank for, you know. I 6 years, I think it was 6 years, I never lost. Wendell won, Clay won, Graham Fox won, you know, so I had, I think, 5 victories and 1 draw.
Being a really at young age, when I said, like I said, when my brother was first playing, there was the Neville Darrell. I can just remember a few things about him. I remember him being up on the bat. I don't remember too much about the captaincy aspect in terms of, you know, the technical part of it. But later on in my years, there was Clevie Wade, who was instrumental in St. George's for his leadership, very highly motivating type of player, led from the front with his aggressiveness and demeanor, very technically sound. Then after him, it was my brother Wendell, who, again, I looked up to as a cricketer, but one who taught me a lot about the like I said, breaking the game down and the technical aspects of it, you know. Then after him, it was Graham Fox. All these guys were all different in how they led the team, but they all had the same goal, which was to either win cup match or to keep the cup. At that time, when I came through, St. George's were dominating in cup match for years and years. You know, these guys had a mindset that when we stepped onto the field of play, it's not about if we're going to win cup matches, rather how we're going to win cup match and how big we're going to win cup match by. That was the mentality.
It's always considered an honor to play cup match. And so when you see the older players or the former players interacting with the younger players, it just helps us to continue this legacy. And what the Sands Parish Council does when it puts up all of the flags with the former captains, it helps us not to forget every single captain that played a role. And so the new captains can look back and say, wow, all of these men played before me, and I have to continue the legacy and honor them as they come into our grounds.
As a St. Georgian, I would want nothing better than be a member of St. George. Always wanted to be a member of St. George's. I always wanted to try and play cup match. I played a bit of soccer, played a lot of cricket, but St. George's was the club to be. At first, it used to be in St. George's, actually down on Water Street. And that's where I paid my dues to become a member at 17, right? December, and I became a member at 18 in January on my birthday. So St. George's has been my life.
Well, as a youngster growing up, I actually had the privilege of watching my brother before me, which is probably a little bit different than most people. So having seen him come through the St. George's ranks for years and years, it was always a goal of mine to get to that level. So to finally, at the age of 16, first of all, make cup match, that was an accomplishment within itself. But to actually captain cup match is an experience none other than I've experienced in my life pretty much. When you're walking out in front of all these people and you know that you single-handedly have a vast responsibility to try and either win cup match or keep the cup, it's a lot of pressure. It's a huge amount of pressure on you. And as an individual, I pride myself on preparation. So weeks before, I was doing my homework on each and every player that I could possibly play cup match for Somerset. It's a huge responsibility, and I didn't take it lightly. I pretty much made sure that everything that I could possibly do to prepare myself was done prior to, because I wanted to make sure that I, like I said, either won cup match. At that time, we actually had the cup. And yeah, so in my first year of cup match, it was a huge amount of pressure on what I would consider a youngster, inexperienced, just coming into the game for a few years and taking over the responsibility of captaincy, seeing a lot of great captains before me, and just wanted to make sure I maintained the integrity of the game and standard of cup match that it was.
Somerset Cricket Club, to me, is the focal point of Somerset. It's in the heart of Somerset. It's something I saw from the 3 homes that I lived in on Scottsdale Road. We all looked down and see the club. We looked down to see if the game was on, if the game wasn't on. or you can hear the crowds roar in the distance. It was all part of my life. My dad gave me the stories, and I saw pictures of him and my godfather wheelbarrowing cement up a ramp to build the upper floor of the club, which actually they opened the year I was born, 1948. Around my neighborhood, practically every house had somebody that was involved in the club.
One of the beauties of Somerset Cricket Club is that inside our office we have the history, all of our records. Somerset is very good with its record keeping. We have some of our members who are walking history books when it comes to Cup Match, but looking through the books, making sure that we don't forget those who came before us, who actually made Cup Match a success. One of the teachers of Cup Match for me was Mr. John Stubble. I met him at one of our events that we had, and he taught us a lesson because we had actually invited his friend, Mr. Bummy Simons, who was a St. George's player, and he brought along his friend, Mr. Stubble, and so Mr. Stubble was like, I'm a Somerset. Mr. Simons was like, I'm St. George's. You guys need to know your history. And it was a great lesson in knowing who the heroes. He has taught us, Mr. Stubble has taught us so much about the history of Cup Match and what it meant. And some of the stories you heard, you could be on the Cup Match team when you get on the boat. By the time you get to St. George's, you're no longer on the team. That would be unheard of. Now, with our players, we have standard, and people talk about the standard that Somerset has.
I think firstly we have to ensure that the sport survives. That's cricket. And that's outside. Cup Match is a part of that, but we have to ensure that cricket survives and that we develop young cricketers who have a sense of pride and identity to Bermuda. Secondly, we have to strike the right balance when it comes to the organization of Cup Match. I believe certain things need to stay without a doubt, and to improve it, obviously we need more financial resources to ensure that the event runs safely. So we have to create a great balance because we don't want to lose that sense of Bermudianism within this event. We don't want to get too commercialized because then we lose sight of what this is really about. And I remember when we didn't have Cup Match during the pandemic, and people told me, what are we going to do? I said, well, Cup Match is an event, but Cup Match is also a holiday in which we celebrate. And I think that gave us time to reflect on what it was about. Because we just come and want to watch cricket and have a good time. But we have to sit back and say, you know what? This could be a learning moment for our country.
Losing Cup Match probably helped to make me the player that I am today, because I can recall the very next day after losing Cup Match, I called my best friend D-. I said, we need to have a meeting. And we sat down and we pretty much, I sat there and for, I'll say 360 odd days, I went through preparing to win the cup back, Within that time, I probably picked about 100, 200 different teams. So my preparation was out of this world, you know what I mean? And believe it or not, the next year we actually came back and we won Cup Match down in St. George's. So I say that to say that I shared that story with my players, and that nowadays, I don't think the players prepare enough for the game of Cup Match. They don't understand the significance, the importance. I mean, like I said, they have the drive, they have the passion, they want to win. But I'm trying to get in them that it takes a lot more than just thinking about the game a week before or even 2 weeks before. You know what I mean? If you really want to be successful, like for me, as coach now, I've started a winter program for my players because I know that we have to do something different to wrestle this cup back from Somerset. So my question was, how many players are going to show up for a winter program? How bad do you guys want this? You know what I mean? So again, it comes down to not just passion, but you have to be a student of this game. That's the difference between winning and losing.
In this memory, we see just one piece of the magic of Cup Match. Its ability to inspire the younger generations, to show them greatness can be achieved with practice and determination. Cup Match represents not only the determination of the players themselves to excel on the field, but the determination of a community to celebrate their culture.
I was never in the choir, so I know how good they would sound. But hail, hail, the gang's all here. What the heck do we care? What the heck do we care? Hey, hail, hail, the gang's all here. What the heck do we care now? Then they had another one, the Somerset boys, the Somerset boys, the Somerset boys forever. The cup may come, but the cup may go, but the Somerset boys forever. Yeah, there are quite a few nice songs they sing along.
Hail, hail, the big now. Hail, hail, the king's all here. Let the ding dong, ding dong dong, ding dong. Hail, hail, dum dum dum, dum 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 dum. I forgot the words.
Cause when you see we don't walk